Welcome to the Killer Author Club. 3 best-selling authors talking about killing, of the fictional kind, with the best thriller and suspense authors in the business. Killer conversations, killer cocktails, and killer guests, with your hosts, Kimberly Bell, Heather Gutenkopf, and Kara Ruda. This is the Killer Author Club.
Hello, and welcome to the Killer Author Club, your favorite haunt for all things murder, mystery, and mayhem. Tonight, we are so excited to welcome superstar killer Anthony Horowitz to the Killer Author Club hot seat. We have all the questions about Marble Hall Murders, the 3rd book in the Susan Ryland series. So grab your list of questions, your poison of choice, a cocktail or mocktail, and get ready to kill the lights. I'm Killer Heather Gutenkopf.
I'm Killer Anthony Horowitz.
And I'm Killer Kara Ruda. Killer Kimberly couldn't be with us tonight, but she'll be back soon.
And before we dive into Anthony's book, a couple quick PSAs. If you love tonight's show and want more, check out the Killer Postmortem, the podcast exclusive after show where every guest confesses something deadly. Tonight's show will be available on your favorite podcasting app starting this Friday. Links to download at killerauthorclub.com. And now, Kara, can you introduce our very special guest?
I'd love to. One of the world's most prolific and successful writers, Anthony Horowitz may have committed more fictional murders than any other living author, working across all media formats from books to TV, film, plays, and journalism. In January 2022, he was awarded a CBE for his services to literature. He has written 2 highly acclaimed Sherlock Holmes novels, 3 James Bond novels, the mystery novels featuring book editor Susan Ryland, and the Detective Hawthorne novels. He is also the author of Teen Spy Alex Rider series, which has sold more than 19 million copies worldwide and has become a hugely successful show on Amazon Prime TV. His breakthrough murder mystery, Magpie Murders, and the follow-up Moonflower Murders were both adapted for TV, adapted, and aired on PBS. He lives in London with his wife and dog. Congratulations on all your success, and thank you so much for being here. We have so many questions about Marble Hall Murders, but can you start with giving us the quick elevator pitch?
Certainly, although it's complicated because it's a big book, but effectively it is the 3rd in the series that began with Magpie Murders and Moonflower Murders, and it has the editor Susan Ryland back in the United Kingdom, and she is hired by a publishing company to produce a new Atticus Punt novel, Atticus Punt being the 50s detective who has been following her throughout her life, it seems. They have hired a young man called Elliot Crace, who is the son, or grandson rather, of Miriam Crace, the most famous children's writer who ever lived. But unfortunately, she was a horrible woman. She was murdered. Elliot Crace knows who killed her, and he hides that secret in his new book, which is a great danger to Susan Ryland. And that, I guess, is a lengthy elevator pitch, but still, I hope it got us to the right floor.
Perfect.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Okay, and Heather, what are we drinking tonight?
So Anthony, you have chosen a Cosmopolitan as your special drink. Why this particular poison of choice?
Well, looking at that picture, I see that it matches the book, but I am afraid to say I do love my pink cocktails. I like quite, I shouldn't say this probably, girly cocktails, but they just appeal to me. And this one, it's sophisticated. I mean, it's mainly vodka and cranberry juice with a little Cointreau in there. But at the same time, it's delicious. It's got a sort of sweetness about it, which I suppose, maybe that describes me in my imagination. Interesting, delicious, and sweet. Who knows?
I love it.
Perfect. Yeah. Cheers and congratulations.
Thank you. I must be careful not to drink too much during the course of this discussion.
We created Killer Author Club so readers could get up close and personal with their favorite thriller writers. This season's lineup is stacked with killers, including Karen Slaughter, Sarah Pekkanen, Chevy Stevens, and our own Killer Heather, plus so many more. For dates, times, and past episodes, surf to killerauthorclub.com. But tonight, it's all about the Marble Hall Murders. Publishers Weekly, in a starred review, said Horowitz is at the top of his game, linking past and present in a virtuoso finale worthy of Agatha Christie. Fans will clamor for the sequel. And Booklist said simply, outstanding. Anthony, clearly you're a skilled and prolific killer. So now we need to know your answer to the killer question. How do you kill?
Well, Kara, I have to tell you that despite having killed well over 100 people in my various novels, I am not a big fan of violence and murder and death. So if you ask me that question, how do I kill? I'd like to answer by saying I hope I do it with my stories. And I hope I kill people in the sense of surprising them and giving them something that really jolts and shocks them with the twists and the turns of the stories and stays with them after they finish reading it.
Oh, I love that answer. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, some people take it literally, so you're much more subtle. I appreciate subtle killer.
Well, as I say, I have never actually killed anybody in real life, and here in the United Kingdom, I'm afraid to say we do not have guns, and so I'm having to always think up very, very difficult and different ways of murder because it has to be knives or clubs or pushing people or whatever, lots and lots of different methods. But your question was how do I kill people, and the short answer is I don't.
Right, exactly. Good. We like that. We really do.
Yeah, so we have so many questions about this book. I mean, we could go all day, but first of all, I just have to know. So the Atticus Poon novels with Susan Ryland's world continue to be like deliciously layered. It's just a fun experience for readers with all the puzzles that are hidden within them. What inspired you to return to this metafictional format for the third book? And what new challenges do you set for yourself as you wrote this?
Well, originally, there was only going to be one book, Magpie Murders. It was enormously difficult to write. It took me about 5 years between thinking it up and actually handing my publisher the finished manuscript. And there was only going to be one. I wrote a second one because my wife, Jill Green, who was a TV producer, said to me that if she was going to sell these books for TV, she needed two. So I then did Moonflower. And that was going to be enough as well, because these books do take a lot of time and effort. But at the end of shooting Moonflower Murders, which is shown on PBS in America, Masterpiece Theatre, made by PBS for Masterpiece, I should say. When we finished shooting the second one, our star, Leslie Manville, said she'd had so much fun, she wanted a third in the series. So I said, fine, we'll do it again. But I have to tell you that Marble Hall Murders is definitely the end of a trilogy as far as the TV television shows go. Mm-hmm. I may write one more Susan Ryland book, which I have in my head, but I think I'm sort of done with it because you have no idea how complex it is weaving these things together so that the plot works, so that the readers don't get lost along the way, so that the endings all make sense. And each book is about at least 2 years of writing, as opposed to my normal books, which are about 7 or 8 months. So I think that Susan and I will soon go our separate ways. Having said that, I'm so proud of these books. I love the way that they, each book has a book within a book. It's about an editor who is editing a 1950s book, and the 1950s book, as I said in my elevator pitch, has a secret hidden inside it which somehow relates to a murder that takes place in the modern age. And I think that's what readers really enjoy, and certainly in the TV show where you're cutting between 1955 and 2020 all the time, or 2025, I've loved doing it, but I think I may have come to the end.
And when you and your wife work together like this, I mean, my husband and I have worked together for about 10 years, and that was tricky. I mean, it's tricky to work together and live together and all of that. So do you guys have an easy time with all of this?
I think I can honestly say that work is at the foundation of our marriage. We have been married for 35 years. We have 2 sons. We're very happy together. But if you ask us what we are doing most of the time, it is working. She produces my shows, and she's brilliant. I mean, Jill reads my scripts. She's the first one to read them. She gives me notes, obviously, because I'm actually working for her. She can fire me if she doesn't like them. Scary thought. But nonetheless, so far, he's a sigh of relief here. She's loved the work, but she always makes it better. She works. She's the only person in the world I know who works harder than me. Sometimes we'll be sitting in my office at sort of 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, and we look at each other and say, what are we doing with our lives? And what we're doing is what we both love, and that I think is what brings us together. Somebody once said that they thought we had a post-it note marriage, because when they came to our house, all they saw were post-it notes stuck on different walls, giving each other instructions about what we had to do and what work was needing doing, and whose turn it was to do up the washing. But it's a partnership that's really worked. Yeah. And I'm thrilled that you experience it yourself. It has difficulties. I mean, I often say that if one producer gives me a note, I just say, oh yes, that's great, I'll do it. If she gives a note, I argue for half an hour, and then I do it.
Yeah. Then you do it. Yeah. It is. It's great being a creative partnership. It is because you're building something together, and I love that part.
Yeah, I
I
don't
think it's
know if
great.
I could work with my husband in that way. I think I might be on like the other side of the uh, justice system if that were the case. We're a great partnership, we're raising a family, but working together, like day to day, I don't know if I could do that. I admire you guys for that.
Well, Heather, I admire you because, of course, family comes first, and that's a great thing to do as well.
Well, and you said that you're both doing what you love, and it really comes through in the book and the books and in the film. So it's really fun to see that collaboration and hearing about the story behind it. So that's very cool. And so, well, we had a reader who was, or a watcher, a viewer of our show, who was so excited that you were coming on that he sent a question ahead of time for you that he wanted to make sure that we asked you. And so, and you mentioned it's a book within a book, within a book. And so Phil asks, when writing the Susan Ryland series, and this is multiple choice, do you A, write the Ryland book first and then create the Poon book, or write the Poon book first and then create the Ryland book, or write them both at the same time? A, B, or C?
Well, Phil, thank you for the question. It's sort of C, really. I write them in the order in which they appear in the book. I have a belief that you've got to. Writing is like a river. It flows. It always flows in one direction. It moves, and you can't sort of turn it around. You can't jump ahead and then go back on yourself. You've got to go with the flow. But that said, I have to have a very good idea of the original crime, which is going to be reflected in the book. Because normally what happens in these books is that somebody is murdered in the modern world, which takes place in, as I've said, 2025, but that is then reflected in another story that takes place in 1955. And for that second story to work, even though it may come second, I've got to know it first. You get my point? One is based on the other. I write them in the order in which they occur.
Brilliant.
But at the same
You
time.
have two rivers flowing at the same time. That's what you're doing, which is a lot. That's a lot to hold. So are you plotter or pantser? Are you
A
plotting?
plotter
also?
or a... I missed the second part. A plotter or
Oh,
a...
plotter or a pantser, or somebody that just writes by the seat of their
I'm a
pants.
plotter. I am a plotter.
Okay.
I like to know at least, when I'm writing a murder mystery, I need to know at least 75% of the book before I start writing. It has to be really written down in great detail because there are so many different strands, so many characters, so many different worlds. And if I don't know, and if I get confused, my reader will get confused. And the biggest worry I always have when I'm writing these murder mysteries, and I'm sure you've had it yourself, where you get into a big murder mystery and you're on page 300 and something, and a character walks into the room and you think, oh my God, who is this guy? I know I met him around about page 200 and something, but I've forgotten who he is, and how does he connect with this guy and that? And you have to stop and thumb back. I just don't want that to happen. I want my books, as I say, writing is like flowing. It's like a river, but so is reading. And so that's what I strive for.
Yeah. And so, since your books there are so very layered and complex in many ways, but you make it seem so easy for us readers. You know, when we're reading, you lay it out so beautifully for us. So, when you talked about Post-it notes, are your plot points all on the Post-it notes? How do you
No,
organize?
I don't do that. I use notebooks. I just use little notebooks that I write questions to myself. What is it? How do I know that he came into the room at 4 o'clock? Or how can I tell the reader that in a secret way that this man is the killer? How can I put the clues in plain sight so that they hang there, but you don't notice them, that sort of thing. And it all has to be very, very carefully crafted. I don't like that sort of method of cards on the wall or post-it notes, because I think they feel like instructions to me. They feel like sort of, signposts, where what I really want is a constant dialogue. So in my notebooks, if I had one in front of you, I would show it to you. In fact, I do have one in front of me here. I have some of it anyway. So let me have a look and see. Yeah, I mean, it's all. There's a bit of the novel. I handwrite everything in pen, and this is the sort of thing I do. It's all little boxes full of questions and clues and observations and lists of what needs to be said. It's like a sort of it's like a building block, and all the pieces are here in my note, and I know where everything is, and it's just a question of assembling them.
I love that.
I love that too. Okay, the title Marble Hall Murders conjures a specific and classic setting. Did you come up with the title? Is that something that comes from you, or okay? And there's also a fun moment in the book when Susan and Elliot are debating the title of the book. I thought that was really funny too.
Well, titles are sometimes difficult, and there is a discussion in the Hawthorne novels, my other series of books, about writing titles and how difficult that is. And the main character in that book, Daniel Hawthorne, is always arguing and saying he doesn't like the title. And it is true that I often have long discussions with my editor. In fact, my next book, she doesn't like the title that I am trying to fight for, and one of us will be killed, I guess. No, I couldn't say that. I love her too much. But title, it's very interesting that when you're writing a murder story, you know, you've got 2 words, 3 words, maybe at the most 6 or 7 words to sell to the reader the story, and the temptation always to put murder into it is sort of one thing, and it is difficult to formulate them. Now with the Hawthorne series, I had the idea that all the titles would be something to do with writing. So the first one was called "The Word Is Murder," the sentence is death, then "A Line to Kill," and after that I ran out of ideas, and I realized it didn't work. It was completely hopeless. I was thinking about having a story set in a morgue where a body part is stolen by somebody, and the title was going to be "The colon is missing." Get it? Colon. But that worked in a sort of literary way, but I couldn't get the story to work, so that didn't go. I do find titles tricky. That's a short answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's great though. I mean, and when you work with your editor, so it's not like you submit it with the title and she's going to change it, because that's what happens to me. But you get at least help.
It's got the new book. The new book I've got has got a title on it, and Marble Hall Murders was always going to be Marble Hall Murders. I actually live quite near a place called Marble Hill, and that's been in my head for a long time. I don't quite know why. M&Ms are not my favorite chocolate, but a lot of my books, Moonflower Murders, Magpie Murders, Marble Hall Murders, have that M&M alliteration in the title, and I do like alliterative titles, I must say. I created a TV show as well called Midsummer Murders, which ran it still is running.
Yeah,
right.
Love that show. So as mystery and thriller writers, we often hear about, oh, she wrote about that trope, he wrote about that trope. And I read an interview where, you're not a big fan of the trope. So how do you upend the genre and bring something fresh and new in your writing, which you do so well?
Well, Heather, first of all, I love murder mystery. I do love that. What I have said occasionally is I do not like the word cozy crime. And I never describe my work as cozy crime, because as far as I'm concerned, even though my books are not very violent, and I tend to shy away from sort of close descriptions of bloodshed and everything, murder is never cozy. Murder is the worst crime a human being can commit, or certainly one of the worst. And I resent the idea that just because a book is written in a light way, that it is somehow cozy. Murder is always cruel and awful. That said, as much as I love murder mystery and whodunits in particular, everything that could be done seems to have been done. I mean, how many different ways can you think of killing somebody? How many different ways can you think of? How many different motives can you think of for a murder? How many different types of person can you think of as your characters? And what I'm always looking for, is somehow approaching murder mystery in a way that makes you think about it twice, that gives you something that hasn't been done. So, for example, in Marble Hall Murders, where we have a book inside the book, Elliot Crates, this young writer, is writing a book, a story, but he is hiding something in it. Even the title, Marble Hall, you mentioned it a moment ago, it turns out that Marble Hall is an anagram. Marble is an anagram of Belmar, and the Villa Belmar is where his book is set. So he's playing with the real world. He's twisting it and turning it, jumbling up the letters, doing things, and hiding in it a mystery as to who killed his grandmother. And so that's what I love about the book, which is the way these two worlds collide and inform each other is different, I think. I think it's new. I mean, you two probably have met many more crime writers than me, and you'll think of, oh, actually, he doesn't know that somebody else has done it. But by and large, I think it is different, and it certainly makes me smile. So that's what attracts me to it. What I want to give the audience is just a murder mystery that they would enjoy and hopefully not guess. But I want to do it my way.
Yeah. And you can tell that you have fun doing it your way too, which is the best part about this profession, I think, is when you're having fun with the story and you're like kind of surprising yourself and you're like, oh, I'm gonna surprise them with this story. It's gonna be great.
Terry, you've said two things there which are so true to my life. The first is fun. Absolutely right. That's what I'm in this business for. I love telling stories. I love surprising people. I like tricking people. And you said also surprising yourself. And I've always said, if a writer doesn't surprise themselves, how will they surprise anybody else? And I think surprises it's a currency of our world and of our business, and I love them.
Yeah, me too. I agree. That makes it so much fun.
Very fun. So let's say in real life, Atticus and Susan get to sit down together, what would they talk about? And who do you think would solve the murder more quickly?
Wow. Well, Atticus Punt would probably solve the murder more quickly, but the trouble is he wouldn't tell Susan Ryland. That's in the TV series. He never gives anything away. And of course, it's only in the TV series, not the books, that the two of them actually meet. In the books, they live in separate worlds. That was just an idea actually given to by my wife, Jill Green, which I then injected into the scripts when I wrote them. If they were to sit down and talk, I think they would talk about Susan rather than about Atticus Punt. His life has been very tough. He has many sort of dark things happen to him during the war and after it. And I think he's the sort of person who keeps that to himself. He doesn't want to sadden people. So I think he would ask about Susan. And Susan, who is a very lively, vibrant, fascinating person who I love the way she works in the world of publishing and literature, and she loves books. I think she would lead the conversation. It wouldn't be just about her. It would be about her and the books she loves. And that's what I love talking about too.
Yeah, we can tell. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm seriously, we could talk to you all day because there's so much to say, and especially about craft and everything. But unfortunately, we have to move to our next segment.
But it's such a fun one. So Anthony and his publisher, they're giving away 3 copies of Marble Hall Murders to lucky US viewers. So it doesn't matter where you're watching. We scour the comments everywhere we stream, but please make sure to shout out where you're from. And you need to answer this question. Okay, so it's a tricky one, and it is multiple choice. So for our viewers out there, what does metafictional mean when we're talking about Anthony's clever books? Does it A, the plot revolves around Meta, as in the company that owns Facebook and Instagram? Is it B, the book within a book plot structure? Or C, I have no idea whatsoever, I just want to win a copy? So A, B, or C, drop your answers in the comments, and we will choose 3 lucky winners.
Good luck, everybody.
I know
it's funny. The Killers are big fans of independent booksellers, and we want to support the ones our killer authors love. Anthony has chosen the Open Book in Richland, UK as his special store tonight. Anthony, can you tell us why this bookstore is so special?
Well, first of all, it's only 5 minutes away from where I live. Secondly, every time I go past, I'll see one of my books in the window. It does support local writers, and other friends of mine who live in Richmond are also very well represented and very well sold by them. Thirdly, it is the only independent bookshop in the immediate area, and independent bookshops are sort of in danger in the United Kingdom. There are only about 1,000 of them, just over 1,000, and it's an extremely difficult climate in which to operate and to survive. And I love the dedication. The owner of this bookshop, Helena Coletta, she just knows her customers. She knows what people want. She knows the world of literature, and she fights and she works so hard to give everybody what they want. So, I love Waterstones. I use Amazon. I won't pretend I don't, but a local bookshop is the heart and soul of any high street, and the Open Book in Richmond is very dear to my heart.
Oh, I love that. We'll be dropping a link in the comments so you can order Marble Hall Murders along with any other books on your wish list from Open Book. That's so special. It is. That makes a community, an independent bookseller like that.
Can I add something else? That if you order it from Open Book, I will, of course, sign it for you. If you ask for it to be signed, I will do that.
Fantastic.
Okay,
my son lives in London now, and so I'm going to send him right over there. So
I should warn you ahead. Richmond is just on the edge of London. It's a little bit. It's a little bit of a hike, but you can still get there on the subway system.
Yeah,
and it's a beautiful place.
Do it. We'll send him. So obviously, we as killers, we love to read, and we love it when everyone shares what they're reading on our Facebook group. But we want you to post pictures, give recommendations. But tonight, we need to know, Anthony, what are you currently reading?
Well, you know what you mentioned in your introduction, but I have written 3 James Bond novels, and I'm at the moment reading the most recent biography of Ian Fleming, which is by Nicholas Shakespeare. It's a very big book. It's 700 pages. It's extremely detailed, but it's wonderfully written. What I love about this biography is it doesn't just tell me things I didn't know about Ian Fleming, but it tells me them in a way that makes it almost feel like I'm reading a novel. It's beautifully done.
Wow.
I love books like that.
That sounds amazing.
And speaking of awesome books, we are so excited to have a Killer alumni to celebrate tonight. That's right, Killer J.T. Ellison has a new book out today. So from New York Times bestselling author J.T. Ellison comes Last Scene, a twisted psychological thriller about the bonds of family and the disconnect between memory and truth. J.T. is giving one copy to a lucky winner in the U.S. or Canada. So Canadian viewers, this is your chance. Make sure you let us know where you're from.
And wait, there's more. Killer Author Club is happy to celebrate 2 new releases that we wanted to let you know about. First up is Bald-Faced Liar by Victoria Helen Stone. Living a lie becomes a matter of life and death for a woman hiding from her past in a novel of mounting psychological suspense. And we also have The Medici Curse by Deco Affanord. Hope I said that right, Deco. A descendant of a powerful Italian dynasty reckons with her family's troubled legacy and her own fractured memories in the Gothic thriller from the author of The Forgotten Girl. So we've got 1 copy of Bald-Faced Liar and 2 copies of The Medici Curse to give away to U.S. viewers. Sorry, Canada. Comment if you want in and tell us where you're from. And good luck. And don't forget to check out the Killer's latest books.
Yeah, because we have Jill is not happy, but Kara is, because her book is out in the world, a thriller about an ill-fated road trip that resurrects a married couple's darkest secrets.
You know who else isn't happy? The main characters in Heather's upcoming thriller, The Perfect Host, when their over-the-top gender reveal goes off the rails. Pre-order this one now. It's out in November.
And finally, have you read Kimberly's latest, The Expat Affair, about 2 Americans in the deadly world of Amsterdam's diamond industry? Links for these are coming up in the comments. And so, every episode we give away some swag, and we have one winner tonight, the little Killer Author swag coming your way to Robin Schaefer. So drop us a note, Robin, and we will get that off to you right away.
Anthony, we have some good news for you. You have survived the Killer Author Club. And we put a big little thing over your face. So,
I'm so relieved.
I knew you would be, and I'm happy to let you know that. So can you tell us where our listeners and viewers can find you online?
AnthonyHorowitz.com will take you to my website, but otherwise go to Penguin Random House or to HarperCollins in America, and both carry information about me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Perfect. And a big killer thanks to bookreporter.com for sharing the murdery love. Stay tuned for updates on bookish news and events from bookreporter.com. And that does it for tonight's episode. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, and join us back here in 2 weeks on August 12th, when we'll have the one and only James Atoll in the club to chat about River of Lives. So we will see you back here in 2 weeks. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
That does it for tonight's show. Thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to catch our next show live, we're every other Tuesday night on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For times, upcoming schedule, and to catch up on past episodes, visit us at killerauthorclub.com. Happy reading. Now get on out there and kill that TBR.